Hey, good morning, everybody. Here we are Monday morning. We get a chance to get our week kicked off, our day started off right with the right thing, a dose of God's Word. Hey, this morning I want to look at a passage, a statement that Jesus said. He's in the garden. It's not going to be too long before he's going to be handed over to the jailers and so forth. And he says something. He's on the mount and he's praying, Garden of Gethsemane, and the three disciples are with him, Peter and James and John. And Jesus makes a very interesting statement. I think it's a very good statement for you and I as well. He said, let's see, where do we get here? There it is, verse 40, Luke 22, and in verse 40. Says, when he came to the place, he said to them, this would have been Peter, James, and John, pray that you enter not into temptation. What a very interesting statement that Jesus makes here. We have temptation all around us. We go to the grocery store. There's magazines everywhere. The things on the radio, the things on TV. Temptation is everywhere. People's temptations are going to be different, but the power and the draw of those temptations are the same for everyone. But Jesus says, pray that you enter not into temptation. When it comes to temptation, there's something that you and I have to do. We can get strength from God, but there's still something you and I have to do. And it's interesting that Jesus says, pray. Pray that you enter not into temptation. It's interesting that Jesus in Matthew chapter 6 and in Luke chapter 11, with the model prayer, so to speak, that was one of the things he said, and deliver us not into temptation. So we can get strength, we can get resolve, from God not to give into temptation, but there's also something that we also need to do as well. Praying is a big part of it. Jesus said that. So praying to God about temptation is rather a significant and important point. But there's something else on our part that we need to do as well, and that is to avoid things that will put us into a tempted status, so to speak. Jesus spoke about, cutting off our hands and plucking out our eyes and cutting off our feet, so that we do not sin. And so the idea behind that is whatever it is that I need to do, cut it out of my life so that I don't sin. So here's something that we need to do with dealing with temptation. We have temptation all around us. But we also, as an individual, we need to do what we can to avoid and to minimize the power of those temptations. And a big part of that is not putting ourselves and places and things and situations that would cause us to sin. Sometimes temptation comes at us. Remember the story of Joseph, the account of Joseph with Potiphar's wife. She kept on him day after day after day, hey, sleep with me, sleep with me, sleep with me. And he eventually just had to run away. Sometimes temptation comes at us, but just because it comes at us doesn't mean that we have to give in to it. Joseph ran away. He wasn't looking for temptation. He wasn't looking for those types of things. It came to him. But what he did was run away from it. I think that's the idea of what Jesus is talking about here. Pray that ye enter not into temptation. The closer we are to God, the easier it will be to face those temptations that sometimes are just around us and sometimes it just come charging after us. So we can overcome temptation. And I think a great point along with that is in Matthew the 4th chapter when Jesus was being tempted by the devil. You notice he didn't give in to any of those temptations. Why? Here's something that always intrigues me. And I think it's a very powerful point. Why didn't he give in to any of those temptations that Satan had thrown at him? He already had everything. He already had the kingdoms of the world. He was already King of kings and Lord of lords. He's the creator. He already made all of that. So here's another thing. Jesus said, pray that you enter not into temptation. We need to do that. And we need to cut out things in our life that may be around us that would cause us to yield to that temptation. But also, we also need to grow enough and to realize and understand is that if I'm a child of God, I've already got everything. There's nothing in this world that's going to do me any good in my standing with God. All it's going to do is hinder me or cause me to lose what I have with God. So whenever I face a temptation, I need to pray every morning, God, do not deliver me to temptation. Pray that we will be strong enough. And then when those temptations do come charging at us, we'd be like Job, we just run. And if they will not leave, just realize if I'm a child of God, I've already got everything. And everything I have is much better than what this world has to offer, because everything this world has to offer when it comes to temptation and those types of things is only going to be trouble, sorrow, and heartbreak. Friends, that's how we're going to have to deal with temptation to get through this life. And there's your dose of God's Word this morning. I'm going to leave you with that. So I hope it'll help you out. I hope it'll help you as you face your temptations today. Remember, pray about it. Remove what you can remove in your own life to hinder and put at bay those temptations. And if need be, just run away. And remember, if you're a child of God, you've already got the best of everything. And that's those spiritual blessings in the heavenly places. Hey, I hope it'll do you some good. Lord willing, tomorrow we'll get back and get our day started off right, get our day kicked off right with another dose of God's Word. So I hope you'll have a great day, and we will see you then.